Hi guys, hope you're all well. So for making an apple crumble pie, you'll need apples of course, and a really nice pie crust. I'm going to link the recipe up here on the right corner. And I made it a night before because it already has to go in the fridge. It needs to be cold, so that's one step that you're done a day before. You can also freeze this. This pastry freezes beautifully. You can make these sort of disc shapes or single serving sort of packaging, whatever size you use usually to make a pie with. You just take that, you wrap it up in a couple layers of cling film, put it in a Ziploc and just freeze it, and then whenever you want to use it, take it out of the freezer the night before and pop that in the fridge and you're good to go. Then coming to the apples, I have a couple of varieties. One thing, make sure that you're using a firmer kind of apples which are really juicy, so that your apple pie is really nice and flavorful. Also, using different varieties adds a really nice textural interest, which then makes your pie taste even better. So coming to the crumble part, here I have some flour, some butter, and some brown sugar. The thing about making a crumble is you can make any quantity you want as long as your ratio is 1:2. So for 1 cup of all-purpose flour, you'll be using half a cup of butter and half a cup of sugar. So your butter and sugar is going to be half to your flour. Using that ratio, you can add any sort of flavorings, you can use any sort of nuts, chocolates, whatever you feel like, and you can make a really big batch of this, especially if you make lots of crumble or lots of pies. You can make a big batch, put it in the freezer, and then whenever you want to make a crumble, you just top it up and you're good to go. So here I'm going to season mine with some cinnamon. You can also use some nutmeg, you can use both, whatever you like. Then I'm going to put in some dark brown sugar. You can use light brown, dark brown, whatever you have. Just mix it up a little bit, and then I'm going to put in my butter. Butter is cold, so I cut it into smaller pieces. Then I'm going to use my hands and rub it together. You almost want a coarse cornmeal-like texture. And the nuts, the silvered almonds that I have added, are gonna give it even more crunch and even more texture. And if you don't want to use your hands and make this process even faster, what you can do is use a food processor, and that would be even easier to do. Next, I quickly wanted to show you guys how I slice and core my apples. I've peeled all of them, and you can see here that my apples are two different colors because I used two different varieties. And you just want to slice them fairly thin, about 1/4 inch ideally, and try to make sure that they're all even so that they bake evenly. Then I've just sliced them and put them in a bowl, and we're gonna add our seasoning on it. I'm gonna be using 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. That's gonna help enhance the flavor as well as preserve the color of the apples. Then I'm gonna add in some cinnamon for flavor. Apples and cinnamon go really well together. I'm adding some regular sugar and some dark brown sugar. If you don't have dark brown, use regular brown sugar or light brown sugar, whatever you have in hand. Just give it all a nice mix so that all the apples are coated with everything. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of these apples in a strainer, and I'm going to put them to stain for about at least an hour so that all the extra moisture could come out of the apples. And then we're going to use it to make something even better. All these apples, it's a good idea to do this overnight too. You can wrap it up with a cling film and leave it in the fridge overnight. So now this has been about 1.5 hours, and you can see right away that the volume has decreased quite a bit, and there is tons of juice that is in the bottom of my pan, my bowl, and we're going to turn this juice into a really delicious caramel. I'm just going to use my spatula to press it a little bit more so that if there is more juice, it can come out. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take all of that juice. It's about 2/3 cup. If you don't have that much, just add some more apple juice or apple concentrate, and I have added about 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to microwave this for about 5 to 6 minutes, but I'm going to do it in 1-minute bursts. And you can see how thick this is. It's pretty hot. And now I'm going to put this back into my apples, and this is going to give it a really nice caramelly rich flavor, and it's going to really enhance the flavor profile of your apple crumble pie. Now coming towards the pie crust, make sure it's a little bit firm and cool. If you think that it's sticking too much to your rolling pin, put it back into the fridge. And if it's too hard to handle and too hard to roll, that means it's too cold. Just let it out and sit on the counter for a couple of minutes. Again, it needs to be on the right temperature for it to be really easily rollable. Now I'm going to use my rolling pin. I wanted to make sure that you guys see that it's a little bit sticky, but use some flour and your rolling pin and it should be easily transferable to your pie dish. I'm using a 9.5-inch pie dish here, and this dough is really pliable. If you see any cuts or any broken parts, what you can do is just simply take a little piece and you should be able to mend it out. So if you notice here, what I've done is I've taken my pie dish and I've put it on a tray. This is for a few reasons. One, it's going to protect the bottom of your pie from getting too brown. Secondly, because there's tons of moisture in this dish, because of the apples and all the butter from the pastry, it tends to bubble and the juices tend to fall out. It doesn't happen always, but it may happen. So it's easy for your hands and it's easy for your oven. Next, if you have, if your pie edges are really thick, they might burn because they cook faster than the rest of the pie. Use a piece of foil and crimp it around the edges of your pie. Just make sure they're not touching the edges because they tend to stick. What you can do is you can butter the foil a little bit or oil a little bit and put it around the edges, covering the top and the sides of the pie. Not completely, but just the edges so that it doesn't burn, because that cooks faster and the rest of the pie cooks slowly. So that's another trick and another tip I wanted to share with you guys. Next, we're gonna bake our pie at 375 degrees for around 45 to 55 minutes, or until you put a knife in it and it just gently glides inside and it comes out super clean. After that, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you let your pie cool down for at least 35 to 45 minutes. What that will do is it's going to give your pie enough time to settle on its own, because it will still have a little bit of juices coming out. It's going to reabsorb it, and then you're going to have a really nice and clean cut. Then you can serve it up with a couple of scoops of ice cream, some more caramel sauce. You can also make that apple caramel that I showed using some apple concentrate. It goes really well. So that was about it. I hope you really liked and enjoyed this recipe. Please do try it out and let me know how it turns out. If you did like it, please do give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, the Homemaker Baker over and out.